Hey guys, welcome back to Raymore Repair. Today we're taking a look at this sweetheart. This is a Yamaha Big Bear 400. And as you may notice, it has all kinds of issues going on with it. Firstly, the starter doesn't work. So we're going to take a look at that first and try to get the starter to actually function. So come along with me as we go into the real world and solve real problems on real junk. Here we go. This sweetheart is pretty much how it arrived, with the exception of I pulled the fuel tank and I pulled the seat off of it and hooked up a jumper battery. All I know for sure is the guy said that it didn't seem to have spark. He took it somewhere else to have it diagnosed. They had a hold of it for 3 years. Yeah, years. And then the shop, I guess, went to shut down or close down or went out of business. He went and picked up his four-wheeler, had it at home for a couple more years, and he asked me if I would take a look at it. All right, here's what we know so far. We have our power wire, our positive terminal, positive battery wire. Jeepers creepers. All right, here's what we know so far. We have our battery terminal or battery. All right, here's what we know so far. We have our positive battery cable. We got it hooked up to the jumper because this battery is absolute junk. It's better off being an anchor than it is being a battery. And then we also have one hooked up to our negative battery terminal, or battery cable. And this comes around to the starter solenoid. The starter solenoid, is it good? I don't know. It's not clicking, so I assume it's not receiving a signal to click. But if we try the old screwdriver trick, our starter does work. So we are not getting either this thing working or a signal to this. So let's figure out if we actually have a signal to that, and then we'll just go backwards through the whole system and figure out where we're actually having an issue. All right, we're going to turn our key on and see if we have any power or ground going to these two wires, because they should be our signal to make the starter, to make the solenoid click, and we don't. Let's see which one we don't have real quick. I'm going to take a stab at it, probably a poor one at that, and go from there to there, and I do have battery voltage there. Now most of these solenoids are controlled on the ground side, and I'm going to guess that's the case with this one as well. We'll go from here to here, and we do have some continuity there. However, on the ground side, this is a controlling side, so we need to go upstream and find out why we are not grounding. If we come to here, we should ground when the button's pushed. We get nothing whenever I push the starter button. I can push it really hard too and nothing happens, or I can push it really fast over and over again and nothing happens. So I'm thinking we're not getting a signal that this thing needs to start. Now something we can do here is we can supply power and ground to this with the key off and see if that solenoid actually works. Let's give that a whirl. Let me find a couple of wires. All right, we know our starter solenoid works. So we'll just keep moving back up the food chain until we figure out what the heck is going on with that. We know our main fuse is good because when I turn the key on, the neutral light comes on. Let's check the rest of our fuses real quick while we get this thing set up. That one's good. Oh, yeah. Oh, yep. Those are all good, and we know our main fuse is good over here. Because if this was out, then nothing works. And we do have a neutral light. If we check for voltage on these fuses, at least one or two of them should have some kind of voltage on them. We have battery voltage on both sides of all our fuses, and we got good continuity, so that all makes sense to that. So the next step we need to do is go upstream. This guy is our starter relay cutoff relay. Starting circuit cutoff relay is what Yamaha calls it. And we have red, white coming in. That should have voltage. So let's just check that real quick. Key is on. We have battery voltage there. And we have battery voltage there. And then we have a yellow-black that controls this thing. So that's probably going to need to be a ground. And the switching part is one red, white. Doesn't matter which one, apparently, because they come together up in the harness here. And then we need to have power going out on the LW, which is blue-white. So, let's see here. What does our yellow-black do? It controls the signal. It's not a switch, it's a control. And let's see here. It's getting a signal from the CDI unit, which I suspect is a lot of what we have a problem with here. So if we take and run us a jumper from red, white to blue, yellow, make sure that's right. Yep. Then we'll see if our starter actually works or not. And it does. So either this thing's bad or it's not getting the correct signal to turn on. Now this yellow-black wire coming out of here goes directly to the ECM. And the ECM, I'm thinking, is our real problem here. Alrighty, I think we need to get to where we can see a bit more on this thing. I'm going to pull the rear fenders, the rack and fenders off this thing, and see if we can get into where the ECM lives and get a better look at our wires and such. And that's really going to be a pain in the butt because all this electrical stuff sits on top of the fenders. But I think it's going to be worth it to figure out what we got going on. All right, we got the rear fenders off. That didn't take too much. The 4 bolts on the rack. Then there's also some bolts that hold the fender down up here. And then we also went ahead and pulled the bolts that right down here that hold the foot guards down. And there's also a bolt right here. And that's pretty much it. 6 bolts down there, 4 up here, and those babies just come off. But more interesting, what I found when I pulled this off is our CDI unit, or ECM, says bad on it. Wonder if it really is bad. Well, I'm suspecting that it probably is, considering we have no start and we also have no spark. It kind of makes me think that it may be truly bad. But I don't like making assumptions on electrical parts. I want to prove that it's bad, or at least do the best I can to prove that it's bad. I do not want to open up the parts cannon and shoot it at it and start the parts cannon off with shooting a $400 bullet and see what we can find. This baby, the cheapest I can find it anywhere looking online, was about $450 for this. I'm not willing to gamble $450 of this man's money to find out if that's bad or not. I want to go ahead and try to figure out if it truly is bad and exactly what we got going on. So how we're going to do that is we're going to see if we can diagnose as many of the circuits going into here as possible. This is a fairly simple system. Alrighty, this whole thing has just gotten much more serious. I pulled the front fenders off as well so I could get to all the wiring and hoo-hoo-dillies up here. And I got to tell you, chasing down the electric start, what's going on with it. We were blowing a fuse, and that was a carb heater, so I unplugged it. That took care of that. We were having some grounding issues throughout the harness. It's the damnedest thing you ever seen. But what I ended up doing to get the electric start to work is I ended up jumping this starter interrupt circuit relay. So it is out of the system now, and we have electric start by pushing the button. All right, we're going to move on to trying to diagnose why this thing has no spark. We're going to check our pickup coil. And on the actual pickup coil, which is the white and red and white with green, let's see what we got on it real quick. See if I can turn this around so you can actually see it too. I'll do my best to get a glare on the screen there, but we'll give that a shot. There we go, 477 ohms. Let's take a quick look and see what that thing's supposed to actually have. And we're right in the middle of it. 459 to 561 is what it should have. So I'm going to say that's good. This also has, what do they call this thing? A rotor rotation direction detection coil. It's an anti-kickback coil. And we're going to check it real quick, see what we got on it. We got 0.2. And on it, we should have 0.104 to 0.127 at 68 degrees. It's 40 degrees out here in the garage right now, so I'm going to say this is probably okay at 0.2. That's pretty low. Let's go one step farther and we'll actually check and see if we have any kind of voltage coming out of them, which we should have. To do that, we're going to use a peak voltage adapter that plugs right into our meter here. And then we're going to go to voltage. And for this, yeah, we have our battery hooked up. We'll see if I can hold both of these on here, make a good connection, and hit the starter button all at once. We're at about 4 AC volts. I'm going to guess that's okay. Yamaha, in their wisdom, in their service manuals, do not give you peak AC voltage. I don't know why, but they don't. And we'll check the kickback coil, or the rotor rotation direction detection coil. And we're at about 0.33 volts. And then the other thing we need to do is we need to check for grounds and voltages at the ECM. Our key is on, and we should have electricity at a couple of places here. Let me check real quick and see what we should have. Red, white should have battery voltage. I'm going to front probe, don't scream, I know. Front probe into that connector. Yeah, I got that glare just about right. I think it's better off laying down. All right, now we'll check our battery voltage going to our ECM. And we have 12.34 volts, and that's about what our battery has in it now. And then we need to check our ground, and our ground is going to be the black wire, which is in this other connector. And I think he's going to be the corner wire here. Now we'll check it by just putting our leads reverse. I'm going to put the negative, I'm going to put a lead to battery power, and then check our ground here, and we should still get battery voltage. We do. We can also check continuity from our battery ground. We have a ground right here, and then come up here, and we have a good continuity to that. So we know we have power and ground to this thing. We know that our pickup coil and kickback coil are both good on this thing. So what else do we need to check on it? Well, we got the incoming signal. We need to check and make sure that we have our ignition controlling functions. And see here, black-white is our kill switches here. Black-white is the center wire on this connector. Dealy bobber there. Now, with this, we should have, with key off, we should have continuity. And we do. Key on, we should not have continuity. And we don't. Funny how that works. And when we turn our kill switch off, we should have continuity. Which I don't think the kill switch is actually functioning, because when I turn the key off, yep, our kill switch does not operate, the one in the handlebar, engine stop switch, and our key does. So we know that this thing is not being shorted to ground or in kill mode. The next thing we need to check is make sure we have continuity on our wires. And what we're going to do here is we're just going to see if we can nurse this yellow piece out of here. Oh yeah. That way I can directly get to the connectors in here. And we're going to check for resistance once again on our two coils, just to make sure that we're getting everything up here where we should. Once again, that was the white green and white red. These two right here. Yep, about the same. Yep, those wires are good coming up to here. Let's check continuity on our wire going to our ignition coil. And I've got to get one lead all the way up here to the ignition coil wire, which is at the front of the bike. And then we should have continuity to here. And we do have. So that wire is good as well. So what we know at this point, everything outside of this is kind of working, but our ECM is not. Well, that's about going to do it on diagnosing this Yamaha four-wheeler. We know that everything else is good, and we know that this says bad. I didn't trust whoever did this to write this on here. I want to do my own diagnostics, and that's what we've done. We'll get a hold of the owner of this thing and find out if he wants to spend the money on one of these. This four-wheeler's in pretty rough shape. It's not really worth much. So we'll find out if he wants to buy an ECM for this and continue on or not. In the meantime, guys, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe. Leave me some comments, good, bad, ugly. Tell me what you'd have done and what I didn't do and all that kind of stuff. And I have a pretty thick skin. I'll be happy to answer any of them you leave one there and tell you what I think. Thanks for watching. God bless.